All right, beloved, we'll do a little story about one of the things that old Dixie spirit tracker and that Navajo spirit tracker talked to me about how they were clearing out kinds of witchcraft. There's all kinds of witchcraft in the South. Now, one of the key ones they were clearing out is runaway slaves, right? Because they were actually under a witchcraft to keep them there. The reason why they weren't just running away all the time, they actually weren't, right? There was a witchcraft keeping them there. It's like a Bible witchcraft, right? It's like a slave Bible witchcraft. One of the parts of the Kabbalah of it, right? Because it's a Kabbalah craft. Part of that is it gives features to others in that craft, higher orders in that craft. That craft could be worldwide. But out of that Kabbalah is specific features in the reality, right? One of those features is that your property cannot run away and add value somewhere else, right? And work against you. That being said, that was applied to your transatlantic slave trade. It was a Hebrew witchcraft that kept them there. And they figured out how to break it. They broke it with the finance class. They came up with the necromancy to break it. We'll talk about that some other time. But the key feature to the reality that was open to them was through that Kabbalah witchcraft. And all those people, and there's a reason why when you were brought on a farm, you became that family. If they were doing it right, if they were Hebrews, let's call it this, if they were cadet families, if they were Hebrews, because them French people were Hebrew. they were descendant, right, from Bunya Malahaya, right, the Hebrew people, the favor to the power, right. They had an authority to do something, right, and they had authority over a Kabbalah, a craft. That craft was slave craft. They were able to make slaves out of their family members, right? So the biblical script allows Hebrews to enslave their own brethren, right? And there's a process to do it. The ancient Bibles have that stuff. The ancient Kabbalists have that stuff. How to keep that magic rolling. So what it does is links these spirits to a family. So when that spirit goes running away, all the spirits kind of look the same because they're part of that family. That's why you got a lot of times got that name. There'll be a couple names of the house, and you got one of them names of the house peoples, right? Typically, you're brought in as a family member. It's children of the Lord, right? I'm not going to go into the mechanics of it. What it does is paints your spirit with a spirit that's findable. A high order person in that Kabbalah can find those spirits, right? So you hire a spirit tracker. They're going to have to be a Hebrew. There's a bunch of stuff, right? They have to keep there's a bunch of stuff. They have to be keeping what that group of Kabbalah is keeping in order to get access to it, right? You can't be their Kabbalah violator and then get access to it. There's parameters, right? And the parameters is part of the Torah. The Torah. There's a secret part of it that you can't be just not violating. Can't violate the sanctity of life, all those crazy things. There's parameters for all things, including judgment, right? So what we want to talk about is how they broke, how these financiers figured out how to break that shit. And it's not by finance, it's by offensive bone. They found an ancient witchcraft, right, that was able to hide the spirits they were taking, right? They were taking people, taking spirits, putting a offensive bone on it, a craft, and able to hide them, right? Because they would take people with certain astrology. Certain astrology is supposed to get certain things. How you get access to those certain things is you have to make them part of your family. Through that Kabbalah witchcraft, you get access to their allotments as the leader, the patriarch, right? The family leader, right? Like a pyramid. Right? It's tricked other Hebrews into being part of your blood rights, right? That's what the Bible does. It's a spirit trap, right? So there are people with authoritative measures over it, and they would administrate the recollection of them things, because normally that witchcraft would keep them from leaving, right? Keep them from even thinking about that. Their life is here, right? There's think about it, there's not ways like you can just get in a car and go around anywhere. I mean, back then that wasn't a thing like that, right? So that being said, things were organized to keep that and cultivate that concept of witchcraft. That was one of the ones they were using, right? So how the financiers broke it up is another story. What they used chiefly is to take the spirits. Yes, they were killing the heads of houses, headmasters, all that stuff, poisoning them, covenanting them with a fence of bone. There's a certain parameters to it, right? And the spirit sang it to me, right? So there would always be the head of the family. If that man died, the son would be next. That spirit would go on to him, and he would be able to discern spirits. He could go out and find his slaves without a lantern, could see their spirit come, their spiritual features that happen, right? If he didn't want to go himself, he'd just pay some man. There was always some man trying to get some work. No, we weren't going whips and chains and crazy shit. It wasn't like you think. He find you without a lantern. Think about that. They hear dogs. They hear horses. You have to get somewhere with something, but they can hear you coming in on them. A spirit tracker can see your spirit in the dark, radiating out of your astrology, radiating out of your spirit container. And when you marry yourself to a family spirit, that one pattern can be seen. And you can see in the spirit, being part of that Kabbalah, the right person, because it's a rite that happens. You don't get to see spirits everywhere like that. It's a rite that gets passed for that operation. Think about an administrator. Does that administrator need that kind of power all the time? No. It's a ritual and a rite. Passes the ability to discern that family spirit for that activity, right? And then you can find out if that spirit was murdered, if that slave was bewitched by another group of people that had a different kind of witchcraft that they put their hand on. All they have to do is get that person separated from the farm for a second and have them do one little thing with them, and they're part of their thing. Prick their finger or something stupid to add blood, and a ritual, right? Because you do have free will, but you also can get trapped into witchcraft, right? It is a cycle of trapping your will into those responses, kind of like a matrix, right? Kind of like that, where all of your responses are going to fit within the framework that's allowed, right? An organization, if you will. Organized by the spirit. Authorized by the powers that rule the thing, right? So I just want to put that in long format. So how they broke up the South was a ritual called the fence of bone. And that spirit, it's like the Thoth method, where that spirit they took can't leave the people in the coven. So it keeps zipping around in the coven. They share it, right? They share that astrology. Basically, they're trying to get access to birth charts and pull people out of authority. Because when you pull one of those spirits out, that spirit doesn't get back into that family. The chief spirit goes to the family, but that spirit gets trapped in that fence of bone and in those people. So that mind power that had authority to run everything correctly for years doesn't go back to that family, because those families are using family magic to keep those spirits within them, right? The time. That shit's going to come back at some point in time. That's how the Aquarian age, if authority is given to people to restitute, is going to be baton passed to individuals given a Kabbalah, right? Given a tradition to hold in order to keep authority over it. Because we're not going to be having machines do all that stuff. Hey, Spirit told me that they're really taking the mantle down on this motherfucker because they started numbering the children of Israel kind of thing, right? Not the same thing, but there's a special group of people that they're truly trying to just oppress them to keep them, because they're the age flippers. They're the actual age. They are the cosmos of the new age, right? I know this fits some descriptions. This is actually what's going on. Oh man, I got some other ones. Some other spirit cracker shit that's real crazy. They can find the fence of bone. The fence of bone hides the death, hides the thing, is a total coven. You have to use witchcraft, and you have to have a special Kabbalah. You have to have a special person that had remained a life a certain way, reverencing the Torah a certain way. Or they can't break it up. It has to be astrologically favored. It has to be planeted up, because the Kabbalah is the planets. the more planets in you, because astrology is about how things affect you, how you interpret the world or experience the world with those planets and other things in the houses. But really, you are what's in your sign planetarily, because that's what's more we are, right? The gods, the reflection thereof is the planets, right? The more you have in your sign, the more you are, right? The more you have in your sign, the more sourcey you are, because those are the source, right? If you don't have them in your sign, the source is outside. If you have them in your sign, the planets, like the moon, the sun, like the planetoids, that covers all of them, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, the more you have, the more you are. Right? And you're asking for less and commanding more. Just some thoughts. Later, beloved.